now that the Board of Education has decided to act in the spirit of transparency and release this footage, the footage that should have been released on March 23rd, 2023. A footage where you will see board members are passionate about this topic. But you will also see what I have been saying for months about a looming executive order that could have been, that was threatened to be used from the former mayor of Denver, Michael B. Hancock, against the Denver Public Schools. That was relayed by Superintendent Alex Marrero to the Denver School Board, telling us that the decision to reinstate SROs was pretty much out of the Board of Education's hands. You will see board members respond. You will see the new mayor, Mike Johnston, and former candidate Kelly Bruff's name will be invoked, talking about protecting the institution of this Board of Education. You will also see that board members wanted to have a personnel conversation about our sole employee. Board members, there were several board members that believed that the superintendent's memo the night before was a violation of policy governance and a violation of our agreement, of our superintendent's contractual obligations. The Board of Education we never had that follow-up conversation, but you will hear in that video board members talking about the need to have a personnel conversation at the same time of having this conversation, but because we did not post for a personnel discussion, personnel matters were not able to be discussed at that time. You will also witness board members talking about their political futures. There was a moment in the video where I definitely let my colleagues know that I was considering tendering my resignation at that time due to the issue that happened at East High School, mainly in large part to the threats and emails and phone calls and messages my office received directly after the shooting at East High School. And I think that you'll also see 7 individuals that truly care about our students. Folks were asking questions around the safety and well-being of those who were injured, but also the supports that we will be putting in place for the students thereafter the incident. We also received an information and update about the past of the student in question from East High School. And we asked numerous questions on that. This session took 5 hours because we had to also debate if we could even pass. At first, this was supposed to be a resolution directing the superintendent to do all of the things that the memo did, but once we found out that the superintendent cannot be directed via resolution due to his contract, but we issued a memo instead. And so I'm grateful that now the Board of Education has released this footage. I question the reasoning why we are now in July 21st, and now we're having this conversation. When I sent an email to the board president that received 0 response from her or any board member or any staff member asking for us to not appeal the decision of a judge's ruling that told us to release the footage. I received no response on June 23rd. The board went into, the Board of Education's meetings were unilaterally canceled thereafter. No board meetings we had board meetings for policy governance scheduled through the end of June, and as you know, we were supposed to meet to accept the superintendent's recommendations for his long-term safety plan. That did not happen. I am concerned that there may have been other factors that would have led to the releasing of this tape that weren't uncovered in today's board meetings. I am going to speculate that other board members whom are running for re-election or could be up for an election very soon have political motivations to have this tape being released today and not being released in the middle of a campaign season. I am very disheartened that our community has had to wait so many months for this to happen. And for that, as your vice president of your school board, I apologize. We should have released this footage to you months ago, and you should have known what took place during a very tense board meeting that led to a very drastic change in policy. And I will even go as far enough to speculate to say that if this board was not threatened with the potential executive order from the former mayor of Denver, I do not believe school resource officers would be returning long-term to Denver Public Schools. And so with that, I do know that there is interest amongst board members and from the board president down to myself and other board members to release this footage to make sure that the public can be able to view it. When that will happen, I do not know. And I'm hoping that we're able to get some closure to that very, very, very soon so that you all can view that. I do know that a file is being sent over to the attorneys that sued the Denver Public Schools, and I hope that they will receive that expeditiously. It's time Denver Public Schools puts this chapter behind us, and it's time for us to move forward to welcome our students back to the 2023-2024 school year. And we need to be able to be a school district that focuses on students and the learning of our kids, and are they doing what they need to be doing when it comes to reading and math. But this is an opportunity for us to really show that we are a Board of Education that gets back to work. And so with that, I'll open it up to questions in the media.
Auon'tai, tell us about today's final decision. Were there any people that were opposed in today's meeting of releasing this footage?
No, this was a unanimous decision by the board, 7-0.
Why do you think that was?
I think that board members they feel comfortable releasing the footage. I can't speak for the individual motives of other board members. I will also raise the speculation that the former mayor of Denver is now out of office, and we've now miraculously met within the week of the new mayor being sworn in to release this footage. And I question if there were any fears of political retaliation from the former mayor once this tape would have been released.
If you're the only board member that speaks today, what do you think that says about your colleagues that won't explain why and how this is all happening?
Again, I can't really speculate the motives of my other colleagues. I hope that they will speak to you. I can tell you the reason why I speak to you is because I'm an at-large member. I represent all constituents in the city and county of Denver. And they need to have a board member or board members that are willing to answer the tough questions and be able to stand before you and represent their own voices and their own votes. So I encourage my other colleagues to do the same. But I hope that whatever happens in the next 130 days when another school board member will be in my seat, for them to be able to be as transparent as I have been with you all.
Mr. Vice President, what was the back and forth conversation? Because it seems like there's stuff that we still don't know, because you had Aaron Thompson saying, I don't know how people are going to vote, and I don't know who talked to the president, yet he already, in advance of this meeting, spoke with IT to see about the feasibility of posting it in its entirety online. So it does seem like there was some machinations that were taking place previously. Did you pick up on that as well, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, again, I asked to know who the other board members were that released the footage, or who wanted to have the footage released, because I would have loved to have some new friends. Because I think that would have been a moment for us to agree on something that we wanted our communities to be able to hear. But I still don't know, outside of myself, what other board members that would have made a majority, because the president said a majority of board members reached out to her expressing that they would like this footage to be released. I'm still questioning who are the majority of board members that reached out. Was that meeting in alignment with the open meetings law? Did they meet informally or did they meet one-on-one? I don't know those questions. Those are questions I have that I don't have answers for. All I know is that I sent an email on June 23rd asking for us to be done with this a month ago, and I received no response. And so I know that my email wasn't the reason why we are here today. It had to be somebody else's motivation to reach out to the president for her to call such a special meeting, and only the president can call a special meeting of the Board of Education.
The judge said the executive session was illegal. It sounded like you were trying to offer an apology to parents. Is that the message you were trying to get across?
Yeah, I think our parents and our communities deserve board members that are going to be apologetic for the reason why we have delayed this process thus far. I don't necessarily think that there's an issue or an apology needed for a meeting behind closed doors and for us to issue an apology for that, but more so of a board member being apologetic that it's taken so long for us to get here.
Speak more to the mayor's action and what happened with the mayor, and is that the reason why this tape was delayed? I mean, is that the crux of this?
I am unsure of if the mayor's current term, the former mayor's term in office, was the delay of this, but I do know, and you will hear in this video, that there was a threat of an executive order. That's what prompted, I think, board members, I would say at least myself, to act in a way of making sure we protect the independent institution of this school board and not being taken over by mayoral control, knowing that the two leading candidates for the position at the time were very critical of the Denver Public Schools and had even said that they would entertain the notion of mayoral control over the Board of Education in the district, or have said that they would like to explore alternative options to school board members in this upcoming election. And so we have to be able to protect the independent institution that this board is.
And that's why the tape wasn't released, to protect the mayor? I'm
not saying that is why the tape wasn't released. I'm saying that is my speculation of why I think could have been a delay. I think the true reason behind this was making sure we were protecting student rights. Because we did talk about an individual student and in depth to a student personnel record, and making sure that that student had the utmost privacy in that moment, because we still had to make sure that we were aligned with FERPA, the Federal Student Protection Act. So we need to make sure that we are aligned with federal law, but I do know that all of our interest is always in to make sure that we do things within accordance with the law, and also make sure we are protecting student privacy.
Mr. Vice President, if I can. So as you're probably aware, a judge reviewed the 5 hours, the video in its entirety, and I'm curious about this, two things. One, was there any point during the meeting that was raised about whether or not this should be discussed in executive session by any of the members present? And then two, what was the advice that the council gave you? Because I would think that if, as the court said, that you guys violated Colorado open meetings by holding this meeting, that the attorney would have advised you that, hey, we're getting into grounds here that perhaps we shouldn't be.
Again, I can speak for myself. I did ask, and I know other colleagues did ask if we were operating in accordance with executive session at the time when we moved into conversations that would have been directives to the superintendent. So that conversation did come up on multiple occasions if the board is acting in the spirit of its the current executive session law. And we were advised that at that time we were.
Auon'tai, is it your understanding that DPS is going to continue the legal battle and the lawsuit that's currently against it? I mean, you guys just voted to release the tapes, and you brought up your own concerns about that being in conflict because they're not releasing the full stuff like a judge ordered you guys to. So what's next in the legal process for DPS? Are you guys going to drop this?
I can't speak for the Denver Public Schools legal department. I would ask you to email Aaron Thompson, that's AARON_Thompson at dpsk12.net, and seek legal counsel from our attorney. From my understanding that our attorney will be sending over the file to the attorneys that sought the executive session tape.
Gotcha. And I guess just for you as a vice president of the board, I mean, and you've spoken to this in the past, but you think this is a valuable use of Denver Public Schools' time and resources to fight to conceal this thing? I mean, your attorneys argued in court it could cause irreparable harm to release these tapes to parents in the community, and now they're getting released anyways.
Yeah, I don't think that this was the best use of our time as a board, and thus I think my email reflects that on June 23rd to the board president, stating that we need to go ahead and move forward, close this chapter in the Denver Public Schools and move forward. Our communities we have a long-term safety plan that our superintendent has worked diligently on to make sure that our students and staff feel safe. When we heard administrators and deans shouldn't be the ones patting students down, we heard them, and our superintendent acted, and now that won't be the case moving forward. When our superintendent heard that we needed to have more mental health supports, he heard them. And now we're expanding partnerships with mental health organizations and making sure that we're doing constant check-ins with all of our kids. And when our superintendent heard that we needed to be able to have school resource officers return, even though that I disagree with the decision, the Board of Education spoke. And the Board of Education decided to support the superintendent and what he heard from his community feedback sessions, and we reinstated school resource officers. And so I think that the Board of Education now has a duty to get back to work, to focusing on implementing the long-term safety plan, supporting our superintendent, and to make sure that we have no more distractions in this term of office with this board. We only have 130 days left, but who's counting, of this current school board being in office. And so I'm committed to making sure that these last 130 days with me on the board is filled with student success. We want to hear more about student academic data, how we're doing around CMAS results, how we're doing around graduation results, how we are doing about social emotional supports and our 21,000 kids that are being screened for dyslexia. Those are the things that we want to be able to start sharing, and for you all to start picking up, that we are doing good work for students, and we don't want to continue to get caught up in this controversy of executive session, and it's just really, it's BS. And so I'm committed to getting our school district back to focus. Our school district has been focused on our students' academic data and our students' academic performance. Now I want all of us in community to get focused on that as well.
Can you say which student you were discussing?
Austin Lime. Any other questions?
If I understood correctly, we were talking about some criticism of the superintendent in this meeting, but the board then gave him a raise and then wants to follow. How does that align?
That is a great question. I voted against the increased compensation along with Directors Esterman and Quattlebaum. And I think in large part we voted against it because it wasn't the proper time and it wasn't in alignment with the conversation that we should have also had around personnel decisions that were, or the decision to issue the memo to the Board of Education reinstating SROs without the consent of the board. And so that will be, you'll hear that in the executive session tape. Where we have that conversation in board members. I think that's actually the tone-setting conversation that we start off with is a board member raises the concern of we need to have a personnel conversation along with the safety conversation. That conversation did not happen. The Board of Education president did not call a special meeting of the board or an executive session for us to have that conversation, but the Board of Education made a decision to increase the compensation and extend the term of the contract. And that was a 4-3 decision. But again, the Board of Education, by a vote of majority, made a decision, and I have to be in line with the will of the majority. Any final questions? All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.